believe, like, we're telling her this on the day of her birthday. That will be the day that we ruin her life. You wanted to see me, Miss Minchin? The older woman ignored Sarah's presence completely, turning her gaze to the young Frenchwoman who served as Sarah's maid. Mariette, has the girl a black frock in her sumptuous wardrobe? A black frock, madame? She has frocks of every other colour. Has she a black one? Mariette's face stiffened as the awful suspicion grew. Yes, but it is far too short for her. She has only the odd black velvet, and she has outgrown it. Miss Minchin, what has happened? You do not speak until you are spoken to. Yep, straight back to where we were. At the beginning, that was. Bring the black dress out at once, whether it is short or not. She is done with finery. Yes, madame. Sarah did not speak. She could not. Her entire body was frozen in place. Her eyes seemed to get bigger and bigger, and she went quite pale. Captain Crewe is dead. He has died without a penny. This spoiled, pampered, fancy-filled child is left a pauper on my hands. You, Sarah, take off that preposterous gauze, change into the black dress, and meet me in my office. And you, Mariette, you were employed on the authority of Captain Crewe, and your wages were his responsibility, not mine. As he has left us with nothing, there is nothing left for you. Your employment is hereby terminated. Remove yourself from this establishment at once. Well, so much for redundancy. Mariette walked heavily down the stairs. A bevy of frightened, confused faces looked up at her, the students of the party, which had been so suddenly called to a halt. Oh, Mariette, what has happened? Oh, de mon chemi. What? I don't understand. Sarah's papa is dead. She has nothing. I have nothing. What? Nothing? It is all over. I am leaving. The girls who remained were too shocked to prevent Mariette's angry exit. Fucking Lottie would be crying, wouldn't she? Sarah! I can't believe it. This must be a mistake. I will speak to Miss Minchin at once. Lavinia, get out of my way, you clod. Lavinia shoved the other girl aside. Ermengarde could not find the will to resist her. It was all too terrible and too certainly true. What will happen now? Will Miss Minchin make her leave too? Becky's legs would no longer hold her. She fell into a heap on the floor, her kerchief sliding loose, and sobbed as if her heart would break. It's exactly like the ones in the stories, them poor princess ones that was drove into the world. Thank God Lottie didn't say anything. I guess we can all take solace in that. It fits her just fine. Her eyes are not working, though. When Sarah Crewe came into Miss Minchin's office an hour later, her face was white and her eyes had dark rings around them. She did not look in the least like the rose-coloured butterfly child who had flown from one treasure to another in the decorated schoolroom. Without Mariette's aid, she had put on the cast-aside black velvet frock. It was too short and tight, making her legs look drawn out and spindle-thin where they showed beneath the skirt. She clutched Emily tight in one arm, the doll's face covered by a scrap of discarded black lace for a mourning veil. Put that doll down. What do you mean by bringing it here? It should have been left in the room along with all other things that are no longer yours. She is all I have. My papa gave her to me before I came to the school. I will not put her down. You will have no time for dolls in the future. Everything will be different now. Do you quite understand matters? Yes, my papa is dead. He left me no money. I am quite poor. You are a beggar. It appears that you have no relations and no home, and no one can take care of you. What are you staring at? Are you so stupid that you cannot understand? I don't get me wrong, I understand that she is furious, but what the fuck are we supposed to do? I tell you that you are quite alone in the world unless I choose to keep you here out of charity. I understand. That ridiculous French doll and all her nonsensical, extravagant things, I actually paid the bill for her. The last doll. Last doll indeed, and she is mine, not yours. Everything you own is mine. Please take it away from me then, I do not want it. Don't put on airs with me. You are not a princess any longer. You will keep only your oldest and plainest clothes, and the rest will be sold. You are like Becky, you must work for your living. What can I do? You can do anything you are told. If you make yourself useful, I may let you stay here. You will run errands and help in the kitchen as well as in the schoolroom. If you don't please me, you will be sent away. Remember that. I won't forget. Well, we look fucked, honestly. Sarah does not look like she's a happy bunny right now. Come with me. Miss Minchin led Sarah along the hall past her own beautiful, comfortable rooms, stopping at a narrow staircase leading upwards. Your rooms will be given to another boarder. You are to sleep in the attic next to Becky. Sarah stood still just a moment, looking at her. Without a word, she turned to the stairs. Stop! Don't you intend to thank me? What for? For my kindness to you, my kindness in giving you a home. Sarah made 2 or 3 steps towards her thin little chest heaved up and down. You are not kind, and it is not a home. Before Miss Minchin could stop her, she turned and ran up the narrow stairs. Okay, well, maybe not as grateful as I thought. Maybe just completely grief-stricken. It's not too bad. I was expecting a lot more dust. There's only, 8, 9 places in the room where the paint is mildly fading. When she reached the attic door and opened it, her heart gave a dreary little thump. It was another world. The room had a slanting roof. It was whitewashed, but the whitewash was dingy and had fallen off in places. There was a rusty grate, an old iron bedstead, and a hard bed covered with a faded coverlet. Some pieces of furniture, too worn to be used downstairs, were stored here out of sight. Under the dull illumination from the skylight in the roof, there stood an old battered footstool. Sarah went to it and sat down. She seldom cried. She did not cry now. She laid Emily across her knees and stared at her impassive doll face. I wish she could talk, if she could speak. But Emily did not make a sound, and neither did Sarah. Well, Becky's going to come up and try and make us feel better. At least Becky's got a good deal out of this. She's got a companion of sorts. Sarah sat in silence for some time until there came a low tap at the door, such a low and humble one that she did not even hear it. Her attention was not roused until the door was timidly pushed aside. That's not timidly pushed aside, that's opened with authority again, and a poor tear-smeared face peeped around it. Oh, miss, would you allow me just to come in? Sarah lifted her head and looked at her. She tried to begin a smile, and somehow she could not. Faced with the loving mournfulness of Becky's streaming eyes, her own at last began to water. Oh, Becky. She held out her hand. Becky ran to her, clasping it tightly. I told you, didn't I, that we were just the same, just 2 little girls? You see how true it is. There's no difference between us now. I'm not a princess anymore. Oh, is she going to put on the whole spiel back that we actually are a princess? Becky knelt beside her, hugging Sarah's hand to her chest. Yes, miss, you are. Yeah, thought so. Whatever happens to you, whatsoever, you'd be a princess all the same. And nothing could make you nothing different. Well, we're going to have to get used to work. Ooh, an actual dark place. Is that a dark place? I'm trying to figure out, hang on. We'll call that moonlight. Yeah, it's fine. Well, we won't call it a... If it is a dark field or over a light day, it's a good one. That first night she spent in the attic was a thing Sarah never forgot. During its passing, she lived through a wild, unchildlike woe of which she never spoke to anyone. There was no one who would have understood. My papa is dead. It was perhaps for the best that she lay there. Her mind was forcibly distracted from its anguish by the strangeness of her surroundings and the physical discomfort of the hard bed beneath her. My papa is dead. She turned over and over again in search for rest, while all around her pressed a darkness more intense than she had ever known, and the wind howled among the chimneys like a living thing. Some noises were worse than the wind. They were scuffings and scratchings and squeakings in the walls and behind the skirting boards. Sarah knew what they meant because Becky had described them. Rats. Once or twice she even heard sharp-toed feet scurrying across the floor in her attic room and startled up from her bed. But there was nowhere for her to go and nothing for her to do but lay her small form down again and cover her head with the bedclothes. Sleep, what she had of it, came only in those moments where exhaustion overwhelmed confusion and despair. Sarah could sleep only a few moments at a time before her awareness forcibly resurfaced. Papa. In the morning, her already pale face had been haggarded by the night of torment. She passed through the hallway where the students slept. The door to her rooms stood slightly ajar, enough for Sarah to see that everything had been changed. Her ornaments and luxuries had been removed, and a bed had been placed in a corner to transform it into a new pupil's bedrooms. Her presence had been completely wiped away. When she went downstairs from the morning meal, she saw that her seat at Miss Minchin's side was now occupied by Lavinia, who refused to meet her eyes. You ought to have been down earlier, Sarah, if you wanted breakfast. You are not a student here, but an employee. You have duties. You must begin as you are to go on. Take a seat with the younger children and see that they keep quiet and do not waste their food. Yes, Miss Minchin. I must do the best that I can. I must not talk back. This is all I have. Yeah, shit as it is, unfortunately, if you do talk back, you will be cast aside. So, that's all I'm saying. Now that Sarah is no longer a student, her time is filled with chores. The kind of icons she can gather have changed. Hunger, fatigue, pride, pain, chill, sorrow. Right. So we don't want them to get high? Oh no, we do want them to get high. Okay. I guess something like that. Just so we can have nothing at 1 for next week? I don't know. I guess we'll save it. And then hope. Kitchen duty. Pride. Jesus. We look somewhat sorrow. We do not look like we're happy. Okay, so we're fucking cold and we're fucking hungry. Probably the two things we needed to sort out first. Whatever. Here, look at you then, the fancy girl all made such a fuss over. Not so high and mighty now, are you? There'll be no more tea and cakes for you, missy, and don't you forget it. Always expecting us folk to serve you with a smile, aren't you, ladies? Never a thought of how much else we might be getting on with. No, it's always you. Well, we'll see how much you like it. You're nothing now, missy, do you hear me? Nothing. This sounds like an incredible amount of jealousy. Say something, why don't you? Please, ma'am. Did you ma'am me? Ain't none of the ma'am and miss not down here. That's for upstairs folk. Please, I came to see if you had any duties for me. Ha! Hoping I wouldn't and you could duck away and leave me to take the blame if you're caught. Look at your hands, soft as porridge, soon crack and bleed if I gave you any real work, and then you'd ruin what you touch. Here, girl, take these rags out back and wash them, and if you bleed them, wash them on again. Yes, cook. I mustn't complain, I must show her that I'm trying to earn a living. Are we trying to sneak our way through? I guess. Alright, well, we have time for like one each, so we'll do 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 like that. Sarah's disappearance from her own party had been sudden and absolute. Such traumatic news delivered so suddenly had been a blow that drove all thoughts out of her mind. She had lain in her attic bedroom trying to come to terms with her loss, and not stirred until morning. Miss Minchin had preferred that the break be quick and clean, that Sarah transitioned at once from a princess to a pauper, and never again the issue be addressed in public. She was a servant, nothing more. The younger students, who were now her responsibility to tend and tutor, saw Sarah often, but to the others she might as well have become a ghost, a wrapped figure in the shadows, slipping silently away. That piece of shit Lottie. After all we did for her, and suddenly she couldn't give a fuck. Sarah's own pride, which had counselled her before to bear her loneliness as a soldier might, kept her from reaching out to any whom she once called friends, even poor affectionate Ermengarde. It had, therefore, been a day or two since Ermengarde had even laid eyes on Sarah, and she was caught by surprise to encounter her coming down a corridor with an armful of garments to be mended. Jesus, we look like we're dying. Even Becky looks better than this. She looked pale and unlike herself, and she was attired in the queer, outgrown frock, whose shortness showed much thin leg. Ermengarde was too slow a girl to be equal to such a situation. She could not think of anything to say. She knew what had happened, but somehow she had never imagined Sarah could look like this. So odd and poor, so lacking in that unique spirit which had always made her fairy-like in Ermengarde's eyes. Look, at least Becky did better than this. Jesus! It was the difference between a fresh flower and one dead and trampled underfoot. It made her quite miserable to see, and she could do nothing but break into a short hysterical laugh. Oh, Sarah, is that you? Her words were aimless, almost without meaning, and her eyes twitched from point to point, afraid to settle on any detail of Sarah's misery and be seen to stare. Sarah, for her part, gazed straight ahead with a curious intensity. She held the pile of garments in her hands, and her chin rested upon top of it to keep it steady. Yes. She said it like a challenge, one that Ermengarde did not know how to answer. She felt as if Sarah had changed into a new kind of girl, and she had not known her before. Yeah, this is where friends are supposed to fucking do something, Ermengarde! Oh, how are you? How does she look? Does she look okay? No, she looks like she's got the plague. I don't know. How are you? I'm quite well. Those eyes fixed her in place, scattering what few wits she had. Desperately, she groped for something to say which seemed more intimate. Are you very unhappy? Sarah's torn heart swelled within her. What do you think? Do you think that I am happy? As she marched past her without another word. She is like the others. She does not really want to talk to me. She knows that no one does. She could not see the heartbroken expression on Ermengarde's face. Now I want to go speak to Ermengarde more. Do make an effort, Ermengarde. The classroom is inches from the dining room. Even you should be able to manage. That's not fair. I had to go back upstairs for my book. Stung by Lavinia's teasing, Ermengarde hurried through the door and closed it behind her. They're going to class. They have books. She stood there for a moment, biting her lip and staring at the wood of the door, and suddenly it opened again. Sarah, come with me. Sarah lowered her gaze and followed Miss Minchin into the kitchen. Emma, the basket. Here, ma'am. Very good. Sarah, here is the things we need from the market, and here are some coins to pay for them. When you are done, bring your purchases to Emma and any leftover coin to me. I know what items should cost. Do not attempt to pocket any of the coins for yourself, or you will be whipped for theft. Good. Okay, well, I wasn't going to anyway, but thank you for the warning. Yes, Miss Minchin. On with you, then. Sarah kept her head down and walked out of the room without protest. At least her education is not completely wasted. But Becky can scarcely read her name. I couldn't give her written instructions. No, ma'am. Well, get back to your work. Yes, ma'am. I've heard they're all bitter of each other. Jesus. All right, so we need hunger and we need chill. Or do we need chill? Do we need to keep them down? I don't actually know. Run errands? Well, fuck it, whatever. And pain. What one's pain? That one. Okay, so we need lightning bolts. Lightning bolt is the new vigor, apparently. I guess we'll put one of that. We just need nothing to be at 1, because I don't know whether they're supposed to be at 10 for maximum good, or whether 1 means we're just dying slowly. Alright, well, we got a bit of chill. Sweet, so we should be up on everything, though pain is going to come hard across. Ouch, Lavi, you're sitting on my hair. Perhaps you ought to not spread it everywhere, then. Oh, please, you won't move. I'm reading, as you can see. Why don't you move instead? It's not like you're paying attention to your books. You never do. But that would... Yes, sure, whatever. Sarah, dusting shelves along the wall, tried not to react to the mention of books. It is none of my business. I must finish this task and return. I can't move because you're on top of my hair. Please, Lavi. Oh, very well. Lavinia stood and moved over slightly before sitting again. Suddenly, her eyes gleamed. I think there are one too many shadows in this room. What? Oh, no, I was wrong. It is only the scullery girl. Sarah turned her head just a bit and looked at Lavinia, saying nothing. To think that she was the girl with the diamond mine. She does look an object, doesn't she? Hush. And she's queerer than ever. I never liked her much, but I can't bear that way she has now, staring at her betters without speaking, as if she was supposing something nasty happening to us. I will not waste my time in imagining bad things happening to other people. I watch people to find them out and to try and avoid any mischief they might make for me. If Lavinia tripped me or showed me, no one would care, no one would punish her. She continued to stare at the two girls until Jessie nervously clutched her friend's hand. Come on, let's go and sit in my room instead. The atmosphere would certainly be an improvement, and Sarah said nothing. 5 pride sets root. Alright, well, in the next episode, we talk to Becky and then get more pride, I guess. Hang on. So if we set her route, does that also mean that we can go on other people's routes as well? I'll have to ask Annika on Twitter, because Alright, I'll ask you guys a question. If there's only one we can do out of Ermengarde or Becky, if there's only one, which one do you want me to do? If we can do 2, well, it's all irrelevant. But if we can only do 1, which one do you want me guys to do? Okay? Answer. Comments, as per always. See you next episode.